Now, to talk with us more about how to get local government to do what you want, we're joined now by Clara Cantor, who's a community organizer at Seattle Neighborhood Greenways. And Clara, welcome.
Thank you.
So Seattle Neighborhood Greenways, tell us what you all do and what do you mean by Neighborhood Greenways?
So we're a grassroots-based organization. We have a coalition of 20 different neighborhood groups spread all across the city that are all completely volunteer-led and run. And we empower people to make change in their neighborhoods for safe streets, to make their neighborhoods great places to walk, bike, and live.
And so when you say greenways, that you typically mean streets that are off the arterials, and the greenness of the greenways is not necessarily about trees or beautification, but it is about whether they are walk and bike friendly.
Exactly. So our name came from our original project, which was convincing the city of Seattle that neighborhood greenways were a viable option for getting around the city. We did that through a number of tactics, through campaigns for a number of years, and succeeded. And now you see greenways all over Seattle. At that point, we had our name, Seattle Neighborhood Greenways, and we went to our neighborhood groups and said, what else do we need? What should we work on next? And everyone had separate projects that they were working on in their neighborhoods, and we decided that, you know, we need neighborhood greenways, but we also need sidewalks, and we need protected bike lanes, and we need other types of infrastructure and improvements. And so we started working on those as well. So our name is a little bit deceptive and limiting, but we do work on a lot of other issues.
So when you say rewinding there, that early on you pushed for Seattle Greenways and you succeeded, A, what does that mean, you succeeded? And B, what did it take to succeed? Like, what had to happen there from an organizing and applying pressure on city government standpoint?
So when I say we succeeded, it means that the city planners include neighborhood greenways as part of their master plans for the city. So there's a bicycle master plan, for example, and a pedestrian master plan, transit master plans. And they're long-term looks at what we want the city to look like in 10, 20 years. And so having the city include neighborhood greenways as part of that master plan is a success. And
so you all, in this great volunteer-led grassroots way, have learned a thing or two about how to apply pressure on different parts of city government. What are some of the top takeaways that you all have learned from all this work of organizing?
Well, I'd say first and foremost that our city officials and Department of Transportation staff and our city council, they're all people. And you know, they all come with their own sets of experiences, their own neighborhoods that they know a lot about, their own professional histories. And so one, I think there's a level of intimidation there that a lot of people think that our government is very removed from we, the regular citizenry, and that's just not the case. And
so relationship building and
absolutely
just humanizing.
Relationship building and humanizing, but also recognizing that they are busy and they work on a lot of different issues in a lot of different neighborhoods, and recognizing that you are probably more of an expert on the user experience of that intersection in front of your house than anyone in the Seattle Department of Transportation. And that's a valuable perspective for them to hear. And having the confidence to be able to speak to that is really important.
So again, there are plenty of viewers out there who know what you're talking about, who've done what you're talking about, and then there are plenty others who are like, what do you mean they will hear me? Like, in the first place, the obstacle of how do I get someone from SDOT or any part of government to hear me? And so what have you learned there just about the basics of how to get heard, whether in council hearings or in closed-door meetings?
Well, what I like to tell people is that it's really about storytelling. You know, if you can tell a personal story about your experience in traveling through your neighborhood, in getting to the places that you need to go, that's incredibly powerful. And, you know, as much as we can use data and statistics and, you know, cite a whole bunch of different research that we've done, and that has its place also. What's really going to get people to care about what you're talking about is a personal story.
Now, as we sit here, Seattle Neighborhood Greenways has had a recent win, getting the City Council to unanimously approve a resolution that you all have been organizing, pushing on. Tell us a bit about that and what it does and why it came to be, and again, what it took from a citizen action standpoint to make that happen.
Yeah, so this is something that we're very excited about. It's a big win for us, but it's also just a step on a much larger campaign. Mm-hmm. This is something that we've been working on for years now. It's basically the resolution sets a timeline for the Seattle Department of Transportation to complete what we call the Basic Bike Network, which is a connected network of safe routes for people to bike on into and through and out of downtown Seattle. What exists right now is that we have a lot of really great infrastructure for people biking, but none of it connects. And so you're biking along this really great, really safe, comfortable route, and all of a sudden it'll just end, and you'll be left out in the middle of a really dangerous intersection with trucks and buses and fast-moving vehicles, and it's terrifying. So the idea behind this map that we've drawn up is that we want to draw lines that connect all of those pieces of infrastructure to each other and create routes that people can use and feel comfortable and safe on the entire route. Mm-hmm. So this is something that we've been working on for a number of years, and it has had several delays and timelines over the years. Things have been pushed back, the political will hasn't necessarily been there, and so this is really encouraging for us to have, the City Council come together and unanimously say this is important to us and this is a priority and we want this to be built now.
And so how did you get there? Again, I want to paint a picture for our viewers of how your volunteer members actually, what do they do to make this happen?
So this has been a lot of work by a lot of people. A lot of neighborhood organizing from the various groups that will be connected to this network. In May, we hosted Seattle's first People Protected Bike Lane, which was right in front of City Hall. We had 50 people standing out in the middle of the street. We had coned off a lane, waving streamers and giving high fives. And
was this sort of a direct action, or did you get permission or permits to do this?
This was not a permitted action.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So, all right, that's part of the playbook.
Sometimes it involves being a little bit creative and helping people to see what's possible in our streets.
So you staged this in front of City Hall.
Yes.
What other kinds of mobilizations?
Rally. We had a lot of different people sending in emails and letters to elected officials and to SDOT staff, voicing their opinions. We had people showing up at City Council hearings and making public comments, standing in the back with signs.
Now, again, this is an all-volunteer organization. So as you were doing this, some of your volunteers might be very experienced at this kind of work, and others might not. Did you all have a playbook or a common, set of guidelines for how to talk to your city council member, how to show up at a hearing, how to try to, communicate this message via phone call or whatever it might be?
We don't necessarily have a playbook, but one of the greatest strengths of our organization is that we're set up in such a way that we all learn from each other every single time we do anything. And if you're showing up at a city council meeting, for example, and you've never been there before, and you're figuring out how to find the room, and you don't really know what's going on, you have a whole group of people standing next to you who can say, hey, this is your first time. I've been here before. Let me tell you how this goes. Let me help you with your story, with what you're going to say when you get up there to the microphone, because it can be very nerve-wracking. And that's incredibly helpful. It was incredibly helpful for me when I first started a few months ago, to have that resource for me.
Well, that idea of citizens helping citizens and bringing each other along in that spirit of mutual aid is, it sounds like the spirit of your organization, but it's also a great set of strategies for people outside to think about how to get stuff done. So
absolutely.
To find out more about Seattle Neighborhood Greenways, it's just, the website is
SeattleGreenways.org.
SeattleGreenways.org. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
My guest has been Clara Cantor. She's an organizer at Seattle Neighborhood Greenways, and you can find out more, as we said, at SeattleGreenways.org.